If this glimpse of eternity stirs your spirit, share your thoughts below. What does this heavenly hope kindle in your heart? Tell us from where you join this sacred contemplation. Let us together envision that celestial realm where every earthly longing finds its perfect fulfillment. Now she stood transfixed as the firmament opened like ancient scrolls unrolling across infinite space. In divine revelation, Ellen White beheld what no mortal mind could fathom, the holy city descending not as mere promise whispered through ages of waiting, but as blazing reality manifest to believing eyes, piercing the veil between earth and paradise to settle upon creation restored and renewed beyond all earthly imagination. She witnessed the sacred city approaching like a radiant bride prepared for her beloved, its ramparts reflecting illumination that knew neither darkness nor shadow. The city descended complete. No earthly construction, no temporal assembly. What Christ had fashioned in celestial workshops through ages of preparation now drew near to realms where Eden would bloom anew, where paradise lost would become paradise regained beyond all former glory. The massive foundations captured her gaze with their otherworldly magnificence, each layer a distinct precious stone bearing walls that ascended in flawless harmony toward infinite heights. These were not mere stones, but living gems, pulsating with the heartbeat of eternity itself. White beheld foundations of jasper, sapphire, and agate, each gem not merely reflecting light, but generating it from within, as if the very essence of divine glory had crystallized into tangible beauty. The jasper foundation spoke of God's eternal nature, unchanging, yet ever revealing new facets of his character. The sapphire layer whispered of divine truth, clear as mountain streams, yet deep as ocean depths. The agate told stories of God's faithfulness through all generations, its bands of color marking each covenant kept, each promise fulfilled. The walls themselves gleamed with jasper of such purity that it became transparent, revealing the glory dwelling within. Streets and structures shone with gold refined beyond earthly comprehension, gold that had been tested in furnaces of divine perfection until every impurity was burned away, leaving only crystalline clarity that allowed the glory within to radiate outward like beacons, illuminating endless valleys. Here stood architecture transcending not just earthly constraints, but earthly imagination itself. Every line spoke of infinite planning. Every curve declared wisdom that began before time. This was magnificence, serving adoration rather than pride, beauty that humbled rather than boasted, grandeur that invited rather than intimidated. The gates remained perpetually open, 12 entrances of lustrous pearl, each portal a testament to suffering transformed into beauty. These were genuine jewels born from irritation overcome, from foreign matter embraced and transformed through patient endurance. Each gate had been carved from a single colossal pearl that captured and multiplied the Lamb's radiance, creating rainbow cascades of light that danced across the golden streets. Celestial guardians maintained joyful vigil at these thresholds, not as sentries preventing entry, but as greeters welcoming the redeemed home. Their faces shone with delight that never dimmed. Their voices rang with welcome that never grew weary. At the city's heart stood the tree of life, no longer forbidden, but freely accessible to all who had overcome through the blood of the Lamb. This was the original from Eden's center, now transplanted to the center of the city that would never know exile. Its trunk rose mighty and majestic, its branches spreading wide enough to shelter all the redeemed. White observed its monthly fruiting, each harvest offering infinite variety and endless sustenance. Never would there be sameness in paradise. Each month brought forth fruits of different colors, flavors, and properties. Some fruits glowed with inner light, others sparkled like liquid jewels. Still others seemed to contain entire galaxies within their perfect spheres. The leaves of this magnificent tree rustled with music, each gentle breeze creating symphonies that spoke of healing, of restoration, of life triumphant over death. These were the leaves for the healing of the nations, not healing sickness, for none existed in that realm, but ministering the final touches of restoration to hearts that had known brokenness. Flowing from beneath the eternal throne, the river of life meandered through the city in crystal streams that sang as they flowed. This water bore properties that transcended physical refreshment. It carried the very essence of life itself, distilled from the throne of grace. To drink from this river was to taste eternity, to feel the pulse of divine love flowing through renewed veins. The thoroughfares stretched broader than earthly avenues could ever span, paved with gold so pure it achieved perfect transparency while retaining its essential goldness. This was gold that had been refined in the furnaces of eternity itself, heated by the fires of infinite love until every trace of alloy had been burned away. White traversed these paths in vision, feeling their unwavering solidity beneath her feet. The golden pavement was warm to the touch, yet never uncomfortable, smooth, yet never slippery. Each footstep produced a gentle musical tone, as if the very streets were designed to turn every walk into worship, every journey into a song of praise. No earthly wear marked these ways, no scars from countless journeys, no evidence of the passage of time. These golden passages bore no memory of tears, no stains from sorrows, no marks from the heavy tread of earthly burdens. Instead, they seemed to glow more brightly with each passing foot, as if the joy of the redeemed somehow added to their luster. Along the borders grew flowers that existed nowhere in earthly gardens, blooms that sang gentle melodies, petals that caught and reflected the light of God's presence, stems that swayed to music unheard by earthly ears. At regular intervals, the streets opened into spacious squares where fountains played with waters drawn from the river of life. She observed dwellings crafted by Christ for His beloved during His time of preparation. Mansions the saved would inhabit, each residence a masterpiece of divine architecture reflecting its owner's character, their earthly journey, their unique bond with their Redeemer. These were not cookie-cutter structures, but individually designed expressions of the Creator's intimate knowledge of each soul He had purchased with His blood. Some mansions nestled within gardens where flowers bloomed in eternal perfection, their colors shifting and changing like living rainbows. These garden homes were perfect for those who had found God in nature's quiet places, with walls that seemed to disappear into surrounding beauty, rooms that opened into bowers where ceiling and sky became one. Others opened to spacious chambers and soaring halls where music could resonate through spaces built for unending fellowship. These were homes for those who had found joy in gathering others for worship, with rooms that could accommodate countless guests, halls with acoustics so perfect that every whisper carried clearly. The glorious homes displayed beauty with materials surpassing any earthly palace. White describes how these dwellings exceeded all mortal imagination could conceive. walls that changed color with the inhabitants' mood, floors that were warm or cool as desired, ceilings that could display the glory of any sunset. Each feature was perfectly fitted to its inhabitant's heart and desires. No two residences appeared identical, yet all harmonized within the city's perfect design. Like notes in a grand symphony, each home contributed its unique beauty to the overall composition while never clashing with its neighbors. The illumination source filled her with wonder that grew with each moment of observation. No solar orb blazed overhead, yet everything basked in perfect brightness. The glory of God and the Lamb provided radiance that never dimmed, never wavered, never cast harsh shadows. This light was alive, not mere illumination, but the visible presence of love itself. It carried personality, warmth, intelligence. When it touched the faces of the redeemed, it seemed to recognize them, to welcome them personally, to celebrate their presence with intensified glow. The light penetrated every corner while remaining gentle to eyes that had once strained against earthly glare. Unlike earthly light that created shadows and blind spots, this divine radiance reached into every crevice with gentle revelation that healed rather than harsh exposure that embarrassed. The radiance emanating from God's presence reached not just every corner of every dwelling, but into every heart, every thought, every emotion of the redeemed. This was the fulfillment of the promise that God would be their light forever, the light of divine knowledge, divine love, divine presence transforming the entire city into a living sanctuary. Work existed in this realm, but transformed beyond all earthly recognition into pure creativity and worship. She witnessed the redeemed constructing homes and cultivating vineyards, fulfilling Isaiah's ancient prophecy, but without weariness, without failure, without the frustrations that had marked earthly labor since the fall. Every task flowed from joy rather than necessity, from abundance rather than want, from the overflow of hearts too full of praise to remain idle. The construction of homes became an art form that combined earthly skills with heavenly materials and divine inspiration. Master carpenters worked with woods that sang as they were shaped, with tools that never dulled, with materials that responded eagerly to skilled hands. Gardeners discovered that the curse which had made the ground reluctant was forever broken. The soil responded eagerly to their touch, bringing forth not just what was planted, but what was imagined. Gardens grew in impossible beauty, with flowers that existed only in the gardener's dreams until love and skill brought them to life. Every completed project offered a hymn of gratitude for hands that could create beauty without destruction. Creation itself seemed eager to cooperate, responding to sanctified imagination with joyful compliance. Melody rose constantly through city streets, not performance-seeking applause, but spontaneous harmony expressing hearts too full for silence. White heard voices joining songs, celebrating salvation's specific memories, each tune telling grace's story through individual lives. Musicians discovered instruments that could produce sounds impossible on earth, harps strung with light, trumpets that could call angels from distant worlds, drums that beat with the rhythm of redeemed hearts. Their compositions were not limited by human capacity, but could soar to any height of beauty their sanctified imagination could conceive. Christ dwelt at the city's center, not enthroned in distant majesty, but walking among his people as friend and brother. The same Jesus who knelt to wash dusty feet now moved through golden streets, his presence transforming every encounter into worship. Nail-scarred hands that once broke bread for hungry multitudes now welcomed the redeemed into fellowship earthly hearts could never fully contain. She witnessed him moving through gathering spaces where he shared meals with those he died to save. White describes the great silver table stretching through gardens, a table so vast it accommodated countless thousands, where the bread of life served bread, satisfying both body and soul. No protocol governed these meals, only the easy conversation of family reunited after long separation. The same voice that stilled storms spoke words healing every memory of pain, every lingering question about suffering's purpose. His countenance, no longer marked by sorrow, shone with joy that multiplied as it reflected from surrounding faces. She saw him teaching in groves where every tree provided perfect acoustics for his voice. Parables that once puzzled earthly minds now unfolded with clarity that delighted rather than confused. Stories of lost sheep and hidden treasure became adventures the redeemed could experience personally. Christ's presence animated the city. White observed how his laughter echoed through halls of marble, how his footsteps blessed golden paths. The atmosphere itself responded to him. Flowers bloomed more brilliantly when he passed. Fountains sang with clearer music. In this city, none sought audience with the king, because the king sought audience with everyone. The chasm between divine and human collapsed into intimate proximity that never overwhelmed but always fulfilled redeemed heart's deepest longings. Relationships in the New Jerusalem blossomed with richness only perfect love could nurture. White describes friendships growing deeper through ages without conflict, without misunderstanding, without barriers earthly selfishness erected. Here, love expanded without jealousy. Intimacy increased without fear. She watched families reunited, not merely restored to earthly bonds, but elevated to connections surpassing anything sin-damaged hearts had known. Parents and children discovered new dimensions of affection, freed from worry and correction. Siblings explored kinship competition never touched, where each success multiplied joy rather than breeding envy. The city nurtured communities serving joy rather than necessity. White describes gatherings where the redeemed shared stories of God's leading through individual journeys. Each testimony added color to redemption's great tapestry, and every listener found fresh reasons for gratitude. Yet White makes clear that certain earthly institutions found no place in this perfected realm. Marriage, as earth understood it, gave way to relationships transcending mortality's limitations. What seemed like loss became a measurable gain as hearts expanded to contain love earthly vessels could never hold. Beyond the city's walls, eternity's adventure unfolded across landscapes dwarfing earthly imagination. White witnessed the redeemed traveling to worlds sin never touched, planets where creation still bore its Maker's unmarred signature. These unfallen realms welcomed Earth's ransomed as honored guests, eager to share songs and stories only innocence could tell. She saw the redeemed borne swiftly by angelic escort from world to world. No vessels needed, only effortless movement under heaven's direction. Travel became pilgrimage, each destination a new chapter in understanding God's character. On these untainted worlds, the redeemed discovered creation as intended, fields never fading, trees unfailing, creatures in perfect peace. Nature responded in harmony to its Maker and welcomed the redeemed with the same Edenic joy once offered to Adam and Eve. The inhabitants of these sinless worlds greeted earth's ransomed multitude with curious joy. They had watched the great controversy unfold through ages, and now they met that cosmic drama's witnesses face to face. These unfallen beings shared unique perspectives on God's character, insights only continuous innocence could preserve. Each world offered its own worship expression, its own contribution to praise's symphony rising from all creation. The redeemed joined these choruses, adding harmonies only the rescued could sing, melodies of gratitude resonating with grace's specific frequency. The exploration never exhausted its possibilities. White glimpsed infinities opening before the redeemed, systems within systems, beauties beyond beauties, each discovery revealing fresh dimensions of their Creator's character. Eternity stretched ahead as boundless exploration of divine love's inexhaustible riches. The vision closed with home established, haven secured, harbor reached at last. Every storm-tossed soul found rest that energized rather than exhausted, peace that empowered rather than pacified. The New Jerusalem stood as proof that God's promises required no human addition, no earthly improvement, only faith to believe and patience to wait for the city whose builder and maker is God. Here, finally, the great controversy ended, not in conquest, but in consummation. Love proven, justice satisfied, mercy triumphant, and eternity begun. The long night of sin was over, the eternal morning had dawned, and the redeemed were home forever in the city of their God.